Here's the mail, it never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, I want to wail.
This is Americanitis, episode 41 for August 22nd. I'm your host, Daniel Sagner. This podcast contains harsh language and covers adult topics. You'll be challenged by views with which you do not agree. We may not be politically correct, but we are correct about politics. You know, I got stuck on schools there for a while. I was thinking what my fixation is about schools, why I seem to have such animus towards teachers. It could be because my first grade teacher would hold kids aloft against the wall by their necks. It could be because in my middle school, violence was so pervasive that I ended up switching schools. It could be that our high school vice principal was such a drunk that it was an open secret that he kept a bottle of Jack Daniels in his bottom right-hand drawer. Then again, it could be that university, which was promised to be full of people who really wanted to learn, was instead a socialist hellscape from which I could not run fast enough. It could be the fact that John Dewey turned America's schools into little collectivist breeding swamps where children are taught to feel, not to think. Or maybe it's the fact that for most people, government schools are the only place they will ever experience bold-faced violence taken as a matter of course. Whatever. Take your pick. They're all valid reasons. Last week I warned about teachers' unions being coercive anti-freedom socialist machines. This week, let's take a look at a statement from the Denver Board of Education wherein they whine and try to scare you about pandemic pods and micro schools. What are those, you might ask?
They're best friends, for sure.
Rachel and Natalie's kids were in the same kindergarten class in the Shawnee Mission School District. That is, until COVID-19 canceled in-person learning.
Me as a working parent, it was really hard to suddenly get that notification of, hey, there's no school next week, and we don't know when it will be back.
For both moms, virtual learning proved difficult.
I am not a teacher. I do not have that gift.
With a new school year looming, they're tackling it together.
So I could teach the girls on Mondays and Thursdays.
Then they'd go to Rachel for Tuesday and Friday, leaving just one day of solo learning with the Shawnee Mission curriculum.
We kind of came up with the idea before we knew it had a name.
It's called a pandemic pod or microschooling. Basically, you take a few kids and create a small classroom. Many parents are following the virtual curriculum set out by the school district. Some are even hiring tutors or teachers to come to their homes. Of course, it's not an option for everyone.
I can't imagine how much of a burden that would be to try to imagine also paying an educator on top of just trying to pay your bills.
Natalie and Rachel shied away from the expense of hiring a facilitator, leaning instead on each other.
At this time for remote learning, parents do need to band together, especially those that do have to work.
They hope there's a benefit for their girls as well.
That's right, folks. Capitalism saves the day once again. Can't gather in groups larger than 10? Fine. We'll get 6 kids together and teach them as we did during the founding of this nation. Sounds like a fantastic solution that's forced upon us, right? Well, not if you ask those in power, those with the control over our children's minds. I'll read a few excerpts from the statement put out by the Denver School Board, link in the show notes. We are all in this together, and we must work to assure no student is left behind. In recent weeks, discussions have surfaced about creating well-meaning pandemic pods and micro schools that unenroll children and hire private teachers. We want to strongly encourage our families to keep the connection they have to their school and educators. We are not all in this together. Each one of us is dealing with this pandemic the best we can individually, and the teachers aren't even a part of it. Listen to the last cast where they claim that they won't be babysitters for the nation's children, and they won't go back to work until an insane socialist laundry list of demands are met. That doesn't sound like you're in this with me. It sounds like you're dragging your feet and pissing and moaning. The rest of the country sees this too, and they're not going to put up with it. So, now you've been outflanked. But of course you have. Government institutions move at the speed of smell, and people are fed up. They want their children educated, and you're feeling the power slip out of your slimy paws. I'd feel bad for you if this wasn't justice in action. Continuing on. We know that Denver has a history of school segregation brought on by the white flight and more affluent families from the district. Here's the guilt card. They want you to feel bad for providing your child with a chance to get an education while they cry about not wanting to work. They want you to draw the parallels between the government using force to separate children via skin color and you deciding to send your kid to a friend's house to learn math. Fuck this gently with a chainsaw. I'll have no part of it. You can take your bullshit straw man juxtaposition and shove it right up your ass. Next, they think you're feeling guilty enough to do the following. For pods to reflect the demographics of the district, there must be 3 students of color for every 1 white student, 2 students who qualify for free and reduced price lunch for every 1 who does not, at least 1 student who receives special education services, and at least 1 student who receives English language acquisition services. Well, isn't that wonderful? They expect you to go out of your way to ensure that every little group is equally represented in each pod. Well, no, of course they don't. They want you to feel so guilty about this in the first place that you'd even consider this. Then give up, because it's too much work, and keep them enrolled. Leave alone the fact that they can't see what an amazing opportunity this is. Imagine if all of the students with special needs could be taught in an environment where their needs are met by specialists. Imagine if all the children who needed help with English were in the same pods. They could learn through immersion and talk with their friends in their own language, feeling less isolated and more heard. Sounds nice. Sounds like a great solution. But no. We need everybody to get the same shitty treatment at our government schools. Pass. Next. Stay enrolled in your school. For every student who unenrolls, the district loses approximately $10,600. The district is already slated to lose $65 million due to COVID-19. Boo fucking hoo. Maybe you should hustle as hard as you hate. Next. Consider the equity implications of creating or joining pandemic pods or microschools. If you choose to participate in a pod, please do not hire DPS teachers, paraprofessionals, or special service providers for assistance in teaching and learning. This puts educators in uncomfortable positions, jeopardizes their employment, creates undue liability, and pulls them away from students that need them most. You don't really need to read between the lines here. Some teachers want to work. They probably love their jobs and miss the feeling of imparting knowledge to a child. It is a wonderful experience, I can tell you. Now these professionals who are willing to work are being strong-armed by the state and told not to work with these micro schools as it's taking money away from the government schools. Too bad. Also, they missed 2 Oxford commas. Why do these schools exist again? Next. Reject the notion of school vouchers and stipends that further siphon funds from public education. Go blow it out your cornhole, sister. I do happen to reject the idea of vouchers because I don't believe in the state stealing my money just to give it back to me. That doesn't mean I think you should have it, though. Not by a long shot. Siphon funds. Give me a break. That's like saying when I go to the drive-thru at Wendy's, I'm siphoning funds from Burger King. Get real. Next. If you do organize a pod, please confirm the safety of all children within the pod. Ask if guns exist in the house and if they are stored safely. All alcohol and prescription drugs must be locked away. Know what adults will be present with children at all times, and suggest that those complete a background check. Make sure adults have taken mandatory reporter training for signs of abuse and are trained in signs of suicide. Holy shit. We call this FUD, FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. This is a sure sign that the school board is pissing their collective pants. When you try to appeal to someone's fear, it's a good sign you've lost any semblance of a cogent argument. Oh no, guns are a thing, I forgot about that. Better send my kid to a government school where gun violence is never an issue. Shame on you, Denver School Board. Next. Ask your employer to provide leniency on work schedules and compensation during periods of remote learning. Yeah, that's right. It's those evil employers that are the problem. It's not the fact that you lily-livered quivering dill holes won't do your job. It's the local auto parts store. Real big-brain hot take. Next. Getting schools to a safe reopening has more to do with what takes place outside of schools than inside schools. The Board of Education is not willing to put teachers, paraprofessionals, support professionals, or families and students in unsafe conditions. Bullshit. If you're under 60 years of age and you drive to work, you're 3 times more likely to die in a car accident than from COVID, so don't give me that line. Really, you're embarrassing yourself. Now that we've gone through this vapid and self-serving pile of agitprop, let's look at what we didn't see. Not one fucking sentence, not one word about education. That's right. Follow the link I provided and you'll see something is missing. Do they not care about teaching our kids? Not right now. They don't. They're caring about maintaining power, about making themselves appear to be an authority. This is the lowest kind of power lusting, and it's especially vile because it involves children. The response to this kind of letter should be, quite simply, get bent, you scum-sucking parasites. Then go hire some real teachers. Also, I really didn't want to talk about this, but it doesn't seem to be going away. So let's have a fireside chat about the United States Postal Service. If you've listened to me for 5 minutes and you have anything whatsoever between your ears, you'll know my position on this, but let me get it out there anyway. There is what appears to be a conspiracy theory going around that Trump wants to hamper the USPS to affect mail-in voting. Since then, we've had congressional hearings, photos from years ago going viral because they supposedly prove the USPS is being dismantled at breakneck speed, and Trump is tweeting that we need to save the Postal Service, so really it's much ado about nothing. The financial distresses of the USPS is no secret. It's well known that your tax dollars are subsidizing every parcel and each stamp that moves through those unholy halls to be delivered by those goofy clown cars. Actually, the engineering of the Grumman LLV is a fascinating story, but it was an easy shot and I took it, sue me. I'd like to frame this against a couple of tweets by a well-known internet person. They are as follows. This is Hyattville, Wyoming. It has a population of 75. Mail gets delivered to its residents despite the fact that it would be cost-prohibitive for residents and businesses to cover the cost of delivery to such a remote area. This is why the USPS is crucial, but not profitable. Of course, the town cherry-picked is one where the last time the census was taken was in 2010, and there were 75 people in a state where livestock outnumber people 3-1. I'm sorry, it's not even a town. It's officially a, quote, census-designated place, unquote. This tweet completely evades reality. When is the last time you sent a letter? I can tell you. It was when I had some business with the government. Imagine that, a problem they create that only they can solve. Almost all of our communication is online, not via post. And don't tell me they have no internet out there, because you can get it from satellites now, thanks to some very inventive capitalists. Furthermore, why is it my responsibility to subsidize mail carrying for people who live in the ass end of nowhere? You could argue that it's in my self-interest to do such a thing, but to force me to pay for it is an abrogation of my rights. This tweet also dismisses out of hand the fact that human ingenuity is an inexhaustible resource. Here we go. Off the top of my head, the quote-unquote town could have someone take all their packages and drive them to the next town, which has a parcel carrier. Wow, that sounds like a great job for a young kid with no skills who wants to make some extra scratch so he can take his sweetie to see a movie, doesn't it? But no, we can't allow people to solve these problems. All hail the state. They're the only ones who can properly handle our packages. Pun intended. The guy went on. Private carriers were refusing to deliver mail for competitors. That is why we have a USPS in the first place. Don't think it would happen today? I still can't get Amazon's Twitch on Roku, and Google has refused to enable casting to Roku as well. Is that annoying for you? That you can't get those quality shows and services that you want on your magical boxes that provide you with hours upon hours of entertainment at the click of a button? I'm so sorry you had to experience that, really. You know what you should do? Is get a gun and force them all to play nice. Oh, that sounds like overkill? I agree. So why would I carry the mail of a competitor? If they need to shore up their infrastructure, that's not my problem. As a matter of fact, it's an opportunity for me to service that area better than you. And there you have it, folks. That's how competition works. That's how capitalism is the answer in every field that does not require the use of force. The point is that the USPS should not exist, as it is not a legitimate function of the government. And did you know that the reason FedEx and UPS haven't utterly destroyed the Postal Service more thoroughly is because of, wait for it, monopolistic practices? That's right. Under U.S. law, it is illegal for any other service to carry letter mail. Go ahead and try it. Set up a business to directly compete with the post office and see how fast you get a knock on your door. The only way they can stay in business is by using force to keep you right where you are, dependent on them. Are we sensing a theme yet, people? Can we draw the lines between government schools desperately clinging to relevance and spreading fear about pandemic pods, and the coercive monopoly enjoyed by the money pit that is the USPS? They're both illegitimate functions of government, and as such they can only keep their thuggish positions by keeping you scared at the business end of a gun. Got a topic or feedback? The podcast is at Americanitis Tech. You can also follow me at Dan Sagner. My last name is spelled Sierra Alpha Golf November Echo Romeo. Please subscribe via Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts if podcasts are your thing. I'm also on YouTube, so remember to annihilate that subscribe button. Patronize us at patreon.com/techside. Show notes are at techside.net/Americanitis. Theme music by Eddie. I thank you all for listening. Later days.